Hi, welcome to Monroe County History Center. I'm Hilary Fleck, the Collections Manager.
And I'm Glenda Murray, volunteer and Monroe County historian.
And we're here at the See Her Run, Monroe County Women in Politics exhibit, which opens today at the History Center in the Deckard Education Room.
Tell me how See Her Run connects to the voting rights that we talked about last year.
So the suffrage centennial was last year in 2020, and we had a large exhibit here in the education room for that centennial anniversary as well, and we are continuing that research. We discovered that one of the suffragettes was also ran for office before she was allowed to vote for herself. So the research kind of naturally segued into discussing Monroe County women who entered politics after 1920 and the passage of the 19th Amendment. So Maud, that I mentioned, is here in our exhibit, and she ran for Monroe County coroner in 1914. We're uncertain why she ran for coroner or what qualifications a coroner needed in 1914, but it's interesting that her husband was a doctor. So it would have been a very nice pairing to have the county doctor married to the county coroner.
And someone ran for sheriff.
Yeah. Layla Smith, she ran for county sheriff in 1928. She was a local paper hanger, is what her profession was called. But nowadays we would call that interior decorator. But it seems that we're also not really sure why Layla decided to run for office. The newspapers did not extensively report on her candidacy, so we don't really understand what her platform was, just that she ran for office that year. So that is something that we're planning on researching more into this coming year.
So tell us about the banner at the bottom, the big red banner.
The red banner is a list of all of the Monroe County women who were elected to public office. We have worked with the Monroe County election records and uncovered a list of hundreds of Monroe County women who have run for public office. Unfortunately, not everyone has been successful, but over 100 women have been elected to their offices since 1920. So that is what the banner throughout the entire exhibit is just naming every woman who has been elected to their public office.
Okay. And Alice Palmer ran for mayor in 1934.
That's true. It was very exciting to learn. Going into this research project, I only knew about Mary Alice Dunlap, who was appointed as our mayor in the 1960s and served for a brief time. So I didn't know before Mary Alice that there was any woman who had run for mayor. So it was very exciting to learn about Alice Palmer. She was a physiotherapist who owned a massage parlor, kind of like a physical therapist that we think of now. But it was reported in the newspapers of the time that her friends encouraged her to run for mayor. So that's very exciting. Her candidacy didn't survive the primary elections, but it was still a tight contest.
So tell me about Frances Presley and Vanna Thrasher, who were the first elected people. Women.
Vanna Thrasher was the first woman elected to an office in Monroe County. She was elected the Bloomington City Clerk Treasurer in 1934, and so she served for 12 years as the City Clerk Treasurer. And Frances Presley was the first woman elected to a countywide office as Monroe County Treasurer in 1937. She actually served as Deputy Treasurer for quite some time before that, and then was elected on her own right in 1936 in the 1936 election. As we get into the 60s and 70s, more women in Monroe County were being successfully elected to public office.
And one of my favorites is Mary Alice Dunlap, who was serving as the clerk treasurer in Bloomington when Tom Lemon, who was the mayor, resigned. And the decision was made that Mary Alice would become the mayor. So she served out the rest of his term for a little over a year, and she ran for office in her own right, but was defeated in a very close election. But she remained very active in the community. And she always said, my little seed of encouragement really let loose. Women felt like they could be part of government.
Another interview early on in Mary Alice's career inspired the seed of this exhibit. The quote is up at the top of the exhibit wall. Mayor Mary Alice Dunlap hopes that one result of her appointment is that more women will take an active part in local politics. And that's really what the exhibit really hopes to give to the viewer, is encouragement to get involved in local politics however you can.
So there were a number of people who then began to be elected, and by 1968, Elizabeth Bridgewaters and Delma Packard were elected to the school board, which was the first time we had women on the elected school board. This was really important for the community, and Mrs. Bridgewaters served as president for a term as well.
Mrs. Bridgewaters was also the very first Black woman to be elected in Monroe County. I love her glasses. Mm-hmm. Very, very hip.
She was also extremely active in the West Side community, in promoting improvements on that side of town, and she wanted to be an example to people, especially to young women, especially young Black women. And so she ran for mayor in 1975, and she ran for state rep in 1976. Even though she was aware, she said, that she wasn't going to win, she wanted to provide that example. So she did. So what about places like Ellettsville and Steinsville? Have they elected women as well?
Yes, they have. We have included in the exhibit the first 3 women elected to Ellettsville public office, and the first 3 women elected to Steinsville public office. Coincidentally, they all seem to happen in the late 70s and 1980s, so that was very exciting. In Ellettsville, Marguerite Christoffel was elected in 1975, Dorothy Robinson in 1975, and Elizabeth Fuller in 1979. In Steinsville, they were all elected in 1980, but Margie Payton, Karen Walsh, and Thelma Pat Carter. We don't have information on how long their terms lasted, though. We couldn't find that at the Monroe County election records. So if there is anybody out there who knows how long these women served in these offices, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah. And then there were a couple of women who were really active in the 70s and 80s. And 2 of those women were Marilyn Schultz and Charlotte Zitlow. And they were business partners as well, in part because when Charlotte was elected and on the city council in 1971, along with some other women who were also elected in 1971 to the council, men said to her, "You haven't made a payroll, so how do you know about the city budget?" So Charlotte and Marilyn opened their own business, Goods for Cooks, or it was first called just Goods. And from there, they went on to being elected to a number of offices and running for offices. I moved to Bloomington in 1984 to be the redevelopment director for the city of Bloomington, where Tommy Lee Allison was the mayor. And so it thrills me to talk about Tommy. And if you got one of the postcards, the picture is of when she was selected to be the mayor after Frank McCloskey was elected to Congress. She was on the city council, as were some of the other candidates, and they chose Tommy, and she served for a dozen years working on many, many projects. At the same time, Vi Simpson was county auditor and then ran for state senate and served for many years. And she became an incredible advocate for schools. She knew the school funding sources better than practically anybody else.
The first women to serve in Monroe County judicial branch was Phyllis Henworthy, who was appointed by Governor Orr to serve as Monroe County District 5 judge. This was a newly created position in 1985, and she went on to serve in this position for 4 years before she unfortunately lost re-election for that position. And Viola Iacono was also one of the first female judges, and she served. She was appointed by Governor Bai in 1995, and she served in the juvenile court at the time. And she was very influential in Monroe County and really very much helped the Monroe County children
Yes.
through her position. She
Yes.
was very much known for that before her retirement in 2004. And another newly elected Monroe County female is the Erika Oliver, who is the Monroe County prosecutor elected in 2018 and currently serving as our first elected female prosecutor.
And then there were a couple of women who served for many years. Joyce Poling in the county, both on the county council and on the county commissioners. Iris Kiesling served first on the city council and then served as a Monroe County commissioner, and they worked together for many years.
And there are several women in Monroe County serving in public office today. One of them being Nicole Brown, who was first appointed our first black female county clerk in 2016, and then she won her election in 2018. Nicole Bolden, she is our first black female city clerk who was elected in 2016. Judy Sharp has been our Monroe County assessor for nearly 30 years. And Shelley Yoder has just been elected in 2020 to the Indiana State Senate, representing District 40 in Monroe County.
And Monroe County also has a number of women serving on the county council, and all 3 of the county commissioners are currently women. And as I understand it, that's the first time in the state of Indiana that all 3 county commissioners have been female. So there's still lots of places, lots of other opportunities, and behind behind Hilary is the little sign to remind us that other people will have opportunities to run for office as well. Please come and see the exhibit.